Hello everybody, welcome back. If you are new to the group, each week Molly and I present a word, and at the end of that word grouping, I go over the personality type that is represented by that color. So we are at the end of the yellow grouping, and today I'm going to talk about the yellow personality. This personality is called the Loyal Skeptic. And I really like that name for this personality because they are very loyal and they are very skeptical. So if you have a yellow in your life, whether it's a child or an adult, they're very curious. There's a lot of questioning, there's a lot of desire for details and an interest in why you're saying what you're saying, where you got that information, where those feelings are coming from, and they're just very inquisitive. And for some personalities, that can be tough. It's very challenging, and it feels like a challenge. For other personalities, they're also interested in the details, so it's kind of a fun engagement. So the yellow personality is one of the three primary colors. So that is red, yellow, and blue. This personality grouping has a lot in common in that they are all very strong personalities. When you're looking at each one of the 9 personalities, usually a red, a yellow, or a blue, know right away that they are one of these 3 colors. They have a really strong sense of being one of these 3 colors without really going over the other colors in very much detail. They feel very connected to their color right away. And the primary grouping also has, I like to talk about their focus on sort of past, present, or future, that kind of nature. And the primary colors are very focused on past experience, learning from past experience, memories from past experience, and kind of where they came from. So in the yellow personality, this focus really has to do with learning from their experiences and using that experience and using those things that have happened to them to help protect them from dangers or difficulties in the future. So the yellow personality has a strong focus on worst case scenario planning. So they'll have a lot of ideas or a lot of envisioned imaginary ideas about how the future could happen. And some of those a lot of times are negative, and they like to prepare themselves for some of those negative experiences or negative possibilities and really live their lives in that kind of prepared way. And that is something that can be challenging for people who don't think that way, but it is a comfort or a coping mechanism for the yellows because they deal with a lot of internal anxiety. There's a lot of thinking going on, there's a lot of future thinking going on, and there's a lot of preparing and planning for future situations going on. So that is one of the distinctions for the yellow personality. Now, each one of these personalities has a connection to the other 8 personalities, and that is the way the yellow connects to the primaries, the red and the blue. Now, the yellow's connection to the secondary colors, that would be the orange, purple, and green. That connection for the yellow, so yellow and red make orange. So that connection to the orange is really a connection of information. The yellow like to have a lot of details. They like a lot of facts and figures. They like, a lot of times they like grammar, really strong focus on grammar when they're writing, and a notice of using words wrong or incorrect grammar even when speaking. I have a yellow son, and I talk to him a lot about correcting people when they're speaking and how much some people like that and some people don't like that. And when you're first meeting someone, or you're in a relationship with someone, or you're in a friendship with someone, and maybe they don't know you that well, or you're getting to know them, those kind of constant little stopping of a conversation for corrections can be really irritating, and it can lead to people not wanting to be around you as much, or just being really uncomfortable when they are around you. So we talk a lot about the difference between kind of inside thoughts, like it's okay to notice those things, but you don't always have to say those things out loud to other people. So they share that with the orange. The orange has a lot of that focus on details, on figures, on grammar, just the more precise nature of communicating with people. The red also has that as well, so it's a very strong connection between those 3 colors. The yellow's connection to the green is through blue, so yellow and blue make green. And that connection to the green is really a connection of creativity. So Greens have a lot of creativity from the blue. The yellows are also very creative thinkers. There's a lot of famous writers, like Stephen King, for example, is a famous writer who's studied himself and believes that he's a yellow personality. And that kind of imaginary, sort of scary imaginary future is something that his brain does really well. And that creativity is a place where the yellow can use that imagination in writing and creative writing, in how they express themselves and that can really help them to process some of those thoughts and feelings that go on in their head. So I encouraged my yellow son to spend some of his free time writing, because it's a really valuable way for him to get some of those creative things out of his brain, some of those things that can sometimes give him anxiety out of his mind and onto a piece of paper. It's a very beneficial process for the yellow. And that connection to the green is through that creative side. So the green's a very creative personality, and that's where we kind of see eye to eye. The green personality maybe isn't as proper in the way they use language. They might not be as detail oriented when it comes to facts and figures, but they really share that love of the creative side of life, and some of the adventure. The green also has a love for adventure, and some yellows can be a very adventurous personality. So that's our connection to the green. The connection to the purple is a complementary relationship. So I've talked about that with the red. The red and green are complementary. I've talked about that with the orange. It's the blue and orange are complementary. And here now in the yellow, their complementary color is the purple. And this relationship, just like the other complementary relationships, are very strong relationships. We find a lot of marriages and friendships between the yellow and the purple. But again, it's not a connection because they see things so similarly or they're so similar. It's really an opposites attract kind of a connection. So a lot of the things that I perceive in myself to be parts of myself that I struggle with, or pieces that I struggle with, I'll see those strengths in the red. It's the same thing for the yellow. So a lot of the shortcomings that the yellows see in themselves, they see those strengths in the purple, and they really like those strengths in the purple, and vice versa. A lot of the shortcomings that the purples see in themselves, they can see those strengths in the yellow. So those complementary relationships have a lot of that opposite nature and opposite complementary positives and negatives about each relationship and each personality. The yellow's connection to the tertiary colors, so that's the three colors in the system: chartreuse, teal, and fuchsia. Those are the colors where when you mix a primary color and a secondary color, you get these third level of colors. So the yellow's connection to the chartreuse is their strongest connection through that line. So if you mix yellow and green, you get this lime green color of chartreuse. And the yellow and the chartreuse have a lot in common. They're very witty personalities. They have very witty sense of humor. They're fast thinking, also focused on information. The yellow really likes to have a lot of information about a lot of subjects. The chartreuse personality oftentimes has a lot of information about very specific subjects. So it's a little bit more narrowed in their information, like the depth of knowledge, versus the yellow, who really likes to have a lot of information about a lot of different subjects. So that connection for them to the chartreuse is really direct, as it's a mixture of their personality, green, and then that equals the chartreuse color. The relationship to the teal is a little more distant. Yellows and teals don't always see eye to eye. It can be a more tumultuous relationship. It can take more communication to get on the same page or to understand each other's point. They do have a connection through like the green, because there's some yellow in the green personality. But really when you mix in that blue, because teal is a mixture of blue and green, you get the teal color. It really becomes kind of distant for the yellow. So that connection to the teal is not quite as direct, and those relationships can sometimes be difficult. So the connection to the fuchsia for the yellow is more of a complementary relationship. So because the fuchsia is a mixture of the red and the purple, you get that purpley pink color, the fuchsia. That connection to the opposite nature, that complementary connection to the purple, is really where the strength in that connection to the yellow and fuchsia lies. So the yellow really sees a lot of strength, and they're very impressed with how the fuchsias live their life, how they show up in the world, and they see those as valuable traits, and they oftentimes get along very well with the fuchsias. The same with the fuchsia. They really like a lot of the personality aspects of the yellow, and those are very complementary relationships. They can be tough at times because there's a lot of misunderstanding because of that opposite nature. But that is a common friendship, a common marriage is that yellow fuchsia. More of a friendship than a marriage, but it is a common relationship. And if you have family dynamics where you have a yellow and a fuchsia, they're probably going to get along most of the time. They might have some disagreements, they might have some misunderstandings, but overall they're going to do pretty well together. So that is the relationship between the yellow and the other 8 personality types. And I really find the value of the IMR system, the internal motivation and relationship system, is in understanding the other personality types as well as it is understanding yourself. But those relationships, that's really where we see value in our daily lives. That's really where we can say, okay, this is my personality. This is how I see the world. This person I think in my life is a yellow. They see the world very differently than me, and that's okay. And here's where we connect, here's where we relate, and here's maybe where we don't connect and we have a difficult time relating. So the real value of the IMR system is in these relationships and those connections to each one of those colors and between each one of those colors. There's a lot of interesting pieces in there that you can learn to understand and learn to see in yourself some of these traits and learn to see these traits in others, and really know that your personality type is one of 9, and that personality type makes you very connected to some people and gives you a tougher connection with other people, a more difficult relationship with other people. And that is why we discuss each one of these personalities as we go through these color groupings, as we talk about each word that we're looking at for contemplation and meditation and discussion. And that's what the yellow is all about. So I appreciate you showing up today. I would encourage you to look in your life and see if you can find anyone that resonates with this yellow personality. Do you have any yellows in your life? Do you feel like you might be a yellow? I would love to hear your comments. I would love to hear your thoughts, and I look forward to seeing those. So thank you again for showing up.